way, way back, a long, long time ago, we used to go out and visit friends, to Mr. and Mrs. Hay at Carrabeal, and I can remember the stove they had. It was a flat top with all the coals and fire and everything on the top, and the oven down beneath, and they had a sort of a swivel at the side, and they'd bring that over. It had hooks on it, and they'd put their pots and pans on the hook, and they'd cook it on the open fire. Now that's the only stove I can ever remember like that. That belonged to Mr. and Mrs. Ramsay Hay at Carrabeal. But I don't think I ever saw another stove like that anywhere else. Everybody made their own bread those days. I can remember Mrs. Hay used to, knead the bread up, and then she'd put it on the side of the fireplace. I suppose, I don't know whether you call it a fireplace or stove, what you'd call it, but she'd put it there, for it to rise. She always cooked the bread there. Because they were living away out in the country, you see, out at Carrabeal, and that was in the back blocks those days. I suppose there would have been a baker in Dunkeld, but I don't know. But no, my mother never ever made bread. We had the baker's shop here in Dunkeld. Because not too many people have those wood stoves nowadays. The wood's too expensive. But I can remember be lots of family feuds, although I never really had to put up with it because Walter always chopped plenty of wood, but there'd be no wood. And I can remember one lady in particular, when the husband came home for tea that night, and she put the axe on the table. She didn't have any wood to cook the tea, so she put the axe on the table. I know I liked the red wood because it was so hot. No, they were good old days, of course. Lot less stress, and even though you didn't have the wood to cook the tea with. Out on our place, townspeople would go out and pick up, get wood, or they could go into the bush and get wood. They used to go into the scrub those days and pick up wood that was on the ground, which they're not allowed to do now. And of course on the roads there was always branches and things down, and they used to just pick up wood anywhere. It was really no problem to get wood those days, because nowadays it's very hard to get wood. And very expensive too. Because it was a cheap way of cooking those days. Let me see. Butter cake, Mrs. Koopman. And of course these are all old Mrs. Tom Duckman and Mrs. Cox, Mrs. Ray Dark, Mrs. R.W. McIntyre. These are all old residents too. Mrs. Pope, Mrs. Dusky, Mrs. Montgomery, Mrs. Funk. That boiled mayonnaise was a nice recipe. I used to make that a lot. Because the favourites the pages are a little bit dirty. Oh, there's another one. Which one would I have made there? The Chavon tart is Mrs. Addenshaw's. That's beautiful. I used to make it a lot, and it was very popular when I took it out. Sumptuous afternoon teas those days. Didn't worry about how much weight we put on, because all these people are dead now. All the Mrs. Rochford, Mrs. Pope, Mrs. Dusky, Mrs. Montgomery, that's Jeff's mother. Mrs. Field, that's Golding, Lovell, Beveridge, Penry, that's Gladden. Oh, because these are all Mrs. Vanderpeer, McGugan.